I'd just like to welcome everybody to this webinar. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Fletcher. I'm the Policy Director at Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. I'm also the GM LSIP director as well. And what we wanted to do today was just give an update as to where we are with the local skills improvement plan in Greater Manchester, give you a bit of background, give you a bit of an update as to what's been going on since we started it, or just over 12 months ago now, what we've been up to recently and what we're going to be doing in the future as well. We've had a lot of people asking us a lot of questions around, well, what's happening with the LSIP, etc., etc. So what we thought we'd do was, just rather than do individual sort of conversations with people, is hold an event like this where we can reach a good number of people. We're going to record it, so we'll get that out to you in due course. And what we'll also do as well is we'll follow up as well with relevant links and things like that, so you can take part, for example, in the survey that we've got out there at the present moment in time, or you can ask us any further questions around it. So thank you very much for sharing your time today. We have allocated an hour for this. We may not set the full hour, we may do. If we finish early, don't worry, I'm not just going to keep it going for the sake of keeping it going. We can give you some time back in your busy days. But like I said, we just wanted to make sure we gave ourselves enough time to get through any potential queries that there may well be. And what I'm going to do is now I'm just going to share screen just to get the presentation going. Hopefully that should be on screen now for everyone. And like I said, my name is Chris Fletcher. I'm the Policy Director and the GM LSIP Contract Director for Greater Manchester. So first of all, the plan and the process. Stage one, we're saying stage one because that was the bit that was primarily around putting the local skills improvement plan together. And the top left-hand side of the screen, the quote there in italics, the representative and coherent view from employers of the skills most needed, is a very simple way that DFE, the Department for Education, viewed the LSIPs, what we needed to get out of the LSIPs. This whole process has been funded by DFE and will continue to be funded by DFE up to March 2025. So it's not just a quick couple of months, a quick hit or anything like that. This is quite a substantial piece of work that we've been doing, and government themselves recognise the importance of it, which I'll come back to in a bit. The 3 bullet points on the right-hand side of the screen there is the way that we approached it. So we wanted a data-rich approach underpinned by ongoing dialogue with employers, providers and stakeholders. And we also needed to make sure that that was linked to Greater Manchester Combined Authority activity and strategy. So this is very much around going out, speaking to businesses, asking businesses, finding out what their skills needs were, and then also working with the providers and working with other stakeholders to make sure that we've just got that coherent view of it. It was no use just going out speaking to businesses and saying, what are the problems with recruitment? What are your problems with skill sets that you most need? Because we'd have a great big long list. And then what would we do with it? So we had to make sure that all parts, all bits of the equation were working together on this. So we knew what those skills deficits were, but also we could see what the current provision was, and then also we can start to plan ahead a little bit as well. So we've been working right across the whole piece with that. The numbers on the bottom just show, just give some idea around the business survey we did. So we had over 2,800 responses for the survey. We did a separate digital skills survey and a separate green skills survey, both with about 200 responses for those. And we did just over 120 interviews with businesses. They were one-on-one meetings where we spoke to employees, we spoke to a range of other people as well from businesses to find out in a little bit more detail, more granular detail, about what those issues really were and where the big problems were that they were facing. One of the things we wanted to do in the LSIP is not just do a Greater Manchester picture where you've got, big numbers at the top and then try and trickle them down and try and make some sense of it. We started within the 10 local authority areas and built it up. So we went in at that first sort of grassroots level to work out what those local skills that local skills information was what those growth plans were in each of the local areas, the local labour market shortages, and then working out with the provision. So you had a snapshot really in each of the 10 boroughs within Greater Manchester of what that local labour market looked like and what we're expecting it to see go ahead look like in years to come. So we did that, and like I said, the amount of survey data, other research data we pulled together in interviews really helped form that picture, and I'll come on to that in a couple of slides' time. A little bit about the process, and this is a bit of a reminder about where we're up to as well. So the LSIP, the plan itself was submitted on the 31st of May. That was stage one, and it was approved by the Secretary of State, Gillian Keegan, on the 28th of July, and it went live on the 11th of August. So we couldn't say anything in that couple of weeks between the two, but once 11th of August came round, we released the plan. That's on a separate website we've got. That's the link there, and again you'll get copies of that as we when we send the slides out to you, which you can download the report and have a look at all those local area reports as well. While we were waiting for the LSIP to be approved, DFE asked us to crack on basically and get the stage two plan written. So we got the LSIP submitted on the 31st of May. Then for the next month, we worked on putting the stage two plan together. And stage two is the stage that we're in at the present moment in time. Both the LSIP and the stage two plans were approved on the 11th of August. And as I've said, stage two runs through to March 2025, and there's going to be a final report due in June 2025. What happens after that, we don't know from a DFE perspective, but obviously what our intention is to make sure that the LSIP becomes part of, as it says, the embedded in the local skill system. And again, there's an awful lot of work being done on that at the present moment in time. That's the overarching aim from DFE for stage two for us, is to embed the LSIP in the local skills system, so it doesn't just become another plan gathering dust on a shelf. It doesn't just become, you know, something else that has been done, but nothing ever gets actioned or whatever with it. So we've got to make sure that what we found, the priorities, etc., we get those into the local skills system. The strategic priorities, we identified 5 what we term strategic priorities. It's a phrase that we came up with. And these were the issues that were coming out time and time again from talking to employers and other people as well, some providers as well, saying, well, you know, we're hearing and seeing that these 5 issues that we've got there are coming up time and time again. And they covered things, for example, like basic IT and digital skills. Now, we know that there are issues around digital skills. I was at a creative sector, creative industries event yesterday, and it was quite interesting because listening to some of the issues that are impacting on the creative sector, again, you know, you've got some very top level digital skills, but you've also got some basic digital skills. And we're talking about things, for example, here, like people not being able to use Outlook, not being able to send emails, not being able to use Word or Excel, just basic level, never mind, you know, intensive software coding or development or anything like that. So we've got a real issue there. And again, this is something that's come out time and time again, whereby if you're going to do any job these days, you're going to have that basic level of digital skills in there. And like I said, that covers everything from, you know, being able to, in some cases, switch a device on to, you know, actually using it in the workplace. So that was a strategic priority that came across. Literacy, numeracy, and you know, other digital skills as well. Literacy and numeracy, big issue. I believe at the present moment in time, this year, there's 8,000 more resits required in those 2 subjects than last year. So that's not just 8,000 in total, that's 8,000 resits for GCSEs in those subjects. So, you know, there's some real issues here about basic levels of literacy and numeracy. That's obviously important, but it's also critical as well in certain job roles. We've got to read operating instructions, manuals to work machinery, etc., never mind basic day-to-day activities. So again, we found from employers, people saying, well, people struggle to read and follow instructions. That impacts my business. Leadership and management is a big one. This comes across and has been around for a number of years now, whereby people are lacking various amounts of those necessary skills to be leaders and manage people as well. And, you sometimes end up, and we've heard from a couple of employees as well that said, well, we've had to promote people that actually haven't got the right skill set, but we need somebody to act as a manager. And sometimes that person tends to be the ones that are good at the job. So what happens is there, of course, you've got people unskilled in a particular job role, and you've actually lost somebody with specific skill sets while they're going on to be that manager. So you've got a bit of a double whammy there impacting on business. Net zero and sustainability increasingly becoming ever more important across all sectors and all types of business. And again, we were quite surprised at the number of employees that were saying, well, we need somebody now to help us tackle or do what we need to do to remain sustainable, to be sustainable. Legislation that's coming in, because if we don't, we'll probably end up getting fined, or we'll probably begin to lose market share, or whatever it may well be. So that is becoming really, really important. And then the last one is one of the favorites we hear from an awful lot of people, and it's around basic soft skills. And again, we heard this time and time again, but we dug into that in a little bit more detail to try and find out what exactly employers meant when they said, well, there's a lack of soft skills. And that could be a range of things, really. But we found out it was generally tending to be around, those sort of essential skills needed to do the job, or essential soft skills specific to that particular workplace. And again, there's a wide range of issues at play there. And what we're saying with those strategic priorities is that pretty much they're cross-sector. While we looked at certain sectors in a lot of detail, those are the things, they're the real building blocks of people's career pathways and employment aspirations. And on the whole, there needs to be a significant step up right across the piece in a large number of cases to get those to the required levels that employers are saying this is good. So like I said, they're the ones that are really, really absolutely essential if we're going to progress the workforce forward, and we're going to begin to make sure people have got the right skill sets for the future. So like I said, they're the strategic priorities we identified. We also identified local area priorities and sector priorities. And as I said, they're contained in each of the local area reports that we've done that hone in really on where the key issues, what the priorities are, the key industries, the key sectors, the key job roles they're going to be used in the future. Just looking at the sectors now, and I just picked one at random. We did, I think, 8 of these in total. This is just for construction. And what we did was we chose a sector and particular job roles within that sector, and then classed that as a priority. And what we looked at there was the level of demand for those job roles and the current level of provision. So, for example, on retrofitting, we classed that was classed as an urgent priority. That was simply a recognition of the fact that there is a huge demand for people with retrofit skills at the present moment in time, but there's still yet not quite enough supply of courses coming through. So there you've got high demand, lowish supply, and quite a bit of confusion actually around what that actually looks like. That's slowly being resolved now, but at the time that we did this, it wasn't clear. So we classed that as an urgent priority. And where you've got things, for example, like core construction skills down at the bottom, that says currently low priority, but that doesn't mean to say we just ignore it. What that means is increasing demand will have to be met by increasing. Otherwise, we're going to create a skills gap where one currently doesn't exist. And we've seen that in a number of other areas as well. In engineering and manufacturing, welding is high in demand from employees, people with welding skills, but the supply of courses is very low. So again, you're beginning to create this gap almost between supply and demand, which is something we need to sort of avoid at all costs. So again, we did that for a range of sectors, everything from health and social care through to digital, through to finance, professional business services, through to education, to really those in-demand key job roles. And we used a range of other data as well. We used AdSooner, which scrapes data from job postings, from advertisements for jobs, internet, and from companies to work out what those job roles were that were being advertised for and recruited to more than others. Now, just because something was raised as co-worker and warehouse workers were two of the most popular ones in each of the 10 local authority areas, doesn't mean to say that there's been a big boom in those jobs. What you've got there as well is, of course, you've got a high churn rate potentially in those jobs, and you've also got other issues that are beginning to come into this around labour market, labour conditions, etc., where some jobs are being recruited to or advertised on a very high frequency, quite simply because there isn't the supply of labour to keep pace or to go into those jobs in the first place, which is a slightly or maybe a very different thing from there being a skill shortage. So the LSIP looked at all these issues in the skills lens. So moving on to stage two, and as I said, the LSIP itself, will share the link after this to give you yourselves, and then you can look at it and pull the details off with that. Stage two is basically, as I said before, DFE is asking us to embed the LSIP into the local skills system. So we're going to carry on the survey work to gather data and intelligence, and looking at the priorities and translating this into provision. We're going to monitor and track and success, because it's always coming up with a list of priorities, working out what the actions are if we're not being able to track what is actually happening in there. And I use the phrase shift the dial, I think, on one of the slides later on. And it's about that, really. We know what needs doing. How do we actually now make it happen? Working with a range of partners, working with organisations in Greater Manchester, so we begin to address these needs. And communication and engagement is really important as well. And again, we're going to make sure that employers are aware of what is on offer and can navigate the skills system. Again, there's a big push from government at the present moment in time. We've got T-levels, we've got all sorts of different initiatives coming in. And one of the jobs we've got to do is make sure that we can give that information out to employers so they're aware of what's going on. And they're also aware of where they can go to get training, to get those courses, to access the help that they need, so they can recruit people or they can upskill their existing workforce. That's a big part of what we'll be doing in stage two. And what I've done here is I've done a sort of Greater Manchester version of stage two, because obviously, in Greater Manchester, things are slightly different, and it's a slightly different place than other parts of the country. We've got the Trailblazer devolution deal, which put a real heavy emphasis on the LSIP when it came to skills. And instead of just embedding the LSIP into the local skills system, there's a lot of work going on at the present moment in time with the combined authority led by the mayor and other organisations. There's chambers involved in it as well, in setting up what they call the integrated technical education system. And what that means is a brand new structure that sits around the skills system in Greater Manchester. That means locally we can now begin to deploy funding. We can now begin to deploy those devolved powers where it's most needed. So we don't have to go to Whitehall for that. We've got more control over some of that, and we can use the evidence we've got to make sure that it works. So we've had to set up a new structure that sits around that as part of the devolution deal, and that is work in progress at present. But once it gets set up, hopefully it will begin to really get some momentum and make some changes. We are what they call the chamber is the designated ERB, which is the designated employer representative body, and that phrase is mentioned quite a lot along with the LSIP in a number of statutory acts, such as the Skills and Post-16 Education Act, which was passed a couple of years ago. The LSIPs and ERBs are mentioned in that. We've got accountability agreements with local colleges as well, whereby they identify from the LSIP where those priorities are, begin to address curriculum needs around that, and then get that approved by DFE. And as I said, we've also got the Trailblazer devolution deal as well, in that. The LSIP is written and threaded all the way through that as you go through it. There is also a new board being set up in Greater Manchester. Recruitment for this took place a couple of weeks ago, and things are just being brought into place, called the Employer Integration Board. And this is where the LSIP, the sectors, employers start to feed in to that new system, into the integrated technical education system. And the data that they'll be working on will be a lot of the data that we've gathered and got through our research team and put in through the LSIP as well. You can see where all this now starts to sort of fit together into something that will actually, hopefully, begin to make a difference. The LSIP has also underpinned a number of other important areas of activity. Local Skills Improvement Fund, which was approved last Friday, I think it was, for Greater Manchester, is a fund. It's been handled by the Greater Manchester Colleges Group as the main organisation for it. And basically, it's a pot of around about £8 million that will be used to address specific technical needs and requirements to upskill people within Greater Manchester. And the evidence for that is very much based on what the LSIP priorities are around key sectors, for example, advanced engineering, digital, etc. So the evidence from the LSIP, what employees have told us, we fed that into that bid, into the colleges group, and there's other people working within that group to deliver that, and that fund has now been approved, and that runs for the next couple of years as well. The Institute of Technology, they've just done a recent update of their strategic plan, and again came to us, and we took part in that to make sure that what they're aiming to do matches exactly with what the priorities said in the LSIP as well. Working with a number of local authorities around new local area plans around employment and skills, and again being asked to make sure that they match what's the LSIP matches and feeds into those in the best way that it possibly can do, because there's no point A, repeating the work, and B, just coming up with something that doesn't match what the priorities are. That work's already been done, so it's important now that gets out to those people that are making those new plans to go forward. Then everything begins to match up. And there's also other activity as well involving skills. We're getting a lot of requests from a lot of people saying, can we just have a chat with you about the LSIP? What does it say about this? And we're more than happy to supply that information and have those conversations with people, because there's a lot of awareness around the LSIP. And what we've got to do now in stage 2 is make sure that, as we've said, that gets fed out to people now that are making those important decisions, and what is being offered matches what employees actually need. One thing to say is we aren't a commissioner of skills provision. We've had a couple of conversations with people wanting us to sort of put courses on or do things or whatever it is. That's not the role of the chamber within this. So we're not a commissioner on this. We're certainly not a provider either. Our role is to act as that intermediary there, bringing information in from businesses, working with providers to assess what current provision is, where those gaps are, and how, working as a part of a bigger partnership within Greater Manchester, we can begin to address that as well. As I said, one of the key things we've got to do is monitor performance, and we've got to shift the dial as well. We know what some of those priorities are. We know where some of those sectors are having shortfalls. What we've got to do is now say, well, through things like the LSIP, through things like new boot camps, through things, for example, other government initiatives, we are now beginning to see where those skills gaps are beginning to be closed, and they're being closed in the right way as well. But it's not enough just to say, job done. What we've got to do is make sure that any new skills gaps that are coming up, we're also addressing those issues as well. So we've always got to keep this information coming through. And one of the things is, of course, is the LSIP was done at the end of May. We were using data that's sort of 6-7 months old. So what we've been doing in the last couple of months is just looking at updates, looking at certain sectors to make sure that the data we've got is still current, still reflects current conditions. And what we'll be doing is we'll be doing a series of updates. We're going to have one out probably at the end of this month, maybe creep into early December, but that will be an update. It won't be another LSIP. It's not going to be a brand new plan, but it'll give an update and make sure that the information you need, the information that we've got and we're supplying to people is current. We'll be doing deeper dives into some sectors. We'll be examining some of the data in a little bit more detail to make sure it's current. And then June next year and June the year after, we'll be doing annual reports as part of the contract with DFE. But obviously, we'll be able to share those with people as well to make sure that if you're out there and you need this information around skills, that you've got it and you can use it in the best way possible. So, final slide. I've put a couple of links on there. One is to the main LSIP website, and the other one is directly to the reports page as well, where you can download the reports online. We've also got the local area reports there as well. And again, what I would say is please have a look at it. If there's anything in there you want further clarification on, please ask. If you want us to look at something in a slightly, a bit more detail around something, please ask. Different sort of organisations, as well as local authorities, as well as, Greater Manchester Combined Authority, working with a number of other organisations now, where they're just sort of getting a little bit more of an idea around some of that information which they need, which will help them, which is absolutely fine, and that's something that we're more than happy to help out with. So I will stop sharing there. Carol has just put a question in the question and answer box. Timescale quoted is 2025. Is that right? Should it be 2024? Yeah, it runs through till 2025, Carol. So we've got all of next year, and then March 2025 is the cut-off point for funding. Although bear in mind, we've got a report to do in June 2025, so we're going to be doing 3 months' work free for DFE. That's good of them. So yeah, if anybody else has got any questions, please put them, or if you want to follow up after it, you want to send me an email or whatever, that's absolutely fine as well. Just having a look through the questions. From John Eubank, common purpose, looking at the leadership bit of it. That's important. We were at, like I said, the creative industry sector event yesterday over at Aviva Studios. One of the questions from the audience was around leadership and management, and there was a guy there from a business saying, we've got a lot of junior talent coming through. We just cannot recruit people with the leadership and management skills, and we've got a real big gap now between the people in the business and the next people coming through. So there's that's a very real problem. So yeah, if you want to follow up with us on that, John, please feel free to do so. Trevor's asked, are you looking at different levels of digital skills that employers need? We are. We've done a bit more of a deeper dive on the digital skills, Trevor, and hopefully some of that may come out in the update at the end of the month. Like I said, we've got this. The big thing that people hone in on then is this sort of basic digital skills, and it's important that we don't forget the other end of it as well, where you've got slightly more technical advanced elements of it. And I know in the LSIP, I think there's quite a bit around digital skills as well. Done an extra little bit of work. I have to defer to Subra, I think, in the research team, just to sort of break that up a bit, because again, we don't want to miss in the issues. So that different levels of digital skills is something that we've been looking at. So look out for a little bit more information on that. Alliance Learning offering additional evening welding courses. Brilliant. There you go. You see, mention it and we get every immediate response. You should do these things more often, I think. Level 3, how can I promote this to employers via GMCC? Lisa, if you just drop us an email about that, we can put that in one of our newsletters and get that out to people. But that's really, really good good to hear. And again, it's one of those things, people assume there's no such, you don't need welders anymore. You do. And it's like I said to people, you may have heard me say something like this before. It's not the type of thing that I don't think a young person's going to go home tonight and ask the mum and dad if they can be a welder. It just doesn't happen, and certainly not the other way around. Any parents saying to the sons or daughters, you should be a welder. These skills and a lot of the traditional trade skills in construction are still going to be needed for the foreseeable future. So it's not all high tech and digital stuff. Got some real need for some of those more basic things. So please send that through, Lisa. We can do what we wanted with that. Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, digital skills framework. That would be really helpful. Any information you can share with that. Excuse me, construction engineering, which we've been produced for for delivery, which is skills training. That'd be good. If you've got any further information on that, Paul, please send that through. Lisa, apply to join the integrated technical board. When do we find out if we made the cut? I don't know. I presume you should hear in the next few days, I think, Lisa. I'm assuming that's the application for the employer integrated board. I'm not sure where they're up to with the recruitment for that. It's not something I'm involved with, but hopefully you should hear in the next couple of days whether or not that's been successful. Will there be a release of interim findings for stage 2 before the final report? Yes, we're going to be doing that around on a regular basis. I think the plan at the present moment in time is we'll probably do those every sort of 3 months or so. But obviously, if there's something comes out that we need to get out to people and say, actually, this is quite a significant issue, we'll do that over and above. We don't just want to stick to the timetable. We'll do that on a pretty regular basis. We've also got a series of podcasts as well. That a colleague, Joe Price, who's overseeing our engagement and partnership work with this. We're in the middle of recording a new lot of podcasts as well. So please look out for when they come out, because we're using those as well to release some information and some sort of, up-to-date news about that. Paul, he's working with Diane Elibert Morgan about collaborating with members on this. That's absolutely great, Paul. Thank you around that, because again, the more people we get working on these things, the more things that are actually in motion around skills is only going to be good for Greater Manchester. Seems to be a pause in the questions coming on, so we'll leave it a couple of more minutes in case anybody else has got anything else. But please look out for a follow-up email coming out. If you've got any more questions or you want any more information, please get in touch with this. This is the first one we've done, as I said, of these. We want to show, what the sort of thing. We wanted to just sort of play this one as a bit of a sort of general overview, bit of a sort of this is where we're up to, bit of a state of the nation type approach to it. What we will be doing is probably doing one again. It may get into very early new year now as opposed to December, just looking at timescales and things. But we may well focus on a particular sector, or we may well focus more on providers, or perhaps do things in a slightly different way from the point of view of, taking a particular element of the work we're doing rather than giving a sort of, big top level, this is what we're up to approach. So please look out for this. We'll keep in touch with you. And also, please, as well, is if you've in contact with businesses, please, look out for the skill survey when we send it out, and please share that as well with any colleagues or your supply chain as well. So it's been a couple of minutes. I've had no further questions come in. So I'm going to take, oh, there we go, just as I speak. Oh, that's great, that, John. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Look forward to following you up on that one. Leadership and management, so vital in the modern workplace. There you go. Thanks, Paul. Thank you so much for that comment. Yeah, that's great. And like I said, anything else anybody needs, please get in touch. Any news on in-person networking meetings? We're just looking where that goes at the present moment in time, Michael. I know. I think we exchanged emails. I think a little bit on that earlier on. What we've tried to do is just sort of want to just get the current updates done, and then we can look at how we're going to take that forward. And I think some of those local and sector ones are going to be quite important. We're not quite sure yet how that's probably going to be run. And the other bit is just want to make sure we've sort of cleared the decks for is making sure that when the employer board gets up and running, what I don't want to be doing is making sure that what we decide to do in any sort of networking meetings, it complements that as opposed to cuts across it, because when we've got several things all happening at once, it could be quite easy for things to get a little bit crowded and a little bit confusing. The other bit is I know, for example, on some of the other skills initiatives at the present moment in time, like the LSIP and other things that some of the colleges are looking at, they're also looking at doing more work with some of their employer advisory boards as well. So all these things are beginning to sort of really begin to get momentum. So just bear with me on that one, and we'll come back to you when we've got a bit more information. But we want to see, development of those types of groups and meetings as an integral part of what it is, and we can make sure that we've got the most up-to-date information as we can. Really for a quick question there, we can help us now input on qualification reform. Steph, if you want to send us a separate email on that, and I could dig into that in a little bit more detail, because that could be quite useful. Because one of the things, there's a couple of things we've got to watch what we're doing around certain things. So if you're talking about qualification reforms and things like that, DFE sometimes sort of say, hang on a minute, that's not really within your remit. But obviously what we're wanting to do is make sure that we cover all elements of it. So if you've got any more information as to what you're proposing on that, safeguarding backwards and forwards on the chat, just drop us an email, chris.fletcher@gmchamber.co.uk. I'll pick that up with you separately if that's okay. Brilliant. Right. Give it another minute or so. We'll just make sure everyone's had their say. I always guarantee I'm going to cut somebody off. You can always guarantee that will happen. I apologise if I do, but that's good. Hopefully that's been of use to people. And like I said, look out for it. We'll send you the links and anything else you want. In the meantime, please drop me a line. And it's been great sharing this with you in this format. Like I said, it's the first one we've done. We'll get some more booked, and we'll look at other types of events and things that we can start to put on and work with other colleagues and other organisations to make sure that we address the very real need to make sure that we've got the skilled workforce that we need in Greater Manchester to continue our growth. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day and look out for the follow-up. Thank you.